Okay, so the first thing you're going to need to make this battery is some of the sulfuric acid we made in a previous video. I'll probably put the link to that in the description or at the end of the video. So this is still fairly impure, it's still fairly contaminated, and since I've had enough of blowing up 1,000,001 power supplies, I have actually brought a proper one from Amazon. It was fairly cheap, it was about 60 quid this. So I'm just going to get me copper electrode, stick that down in there, that bit of course over the edge and wrapped around. I've explained what I'm doing here in my copper sulfate video. It's the same way I made it, I'm just purifying it further via the same method. So if you want to know what I'm doing, just go find that video. Again, there will be a link. Straighten that there. And there, make sure that they're not touching. And of course I can set my power supply to the voltage in amps, so I'm going to go to the amps and put it on to 2 amps, well 2.5, I want to get this done fairly quickly. Voltage can be on 10 volts ish. It'll go on to a constant current mode, so it'll automatically adjust. And now turn the power supply on. Connect the positive to the graphite electrode. This is very hard when you're wearing gloves, but safety first. And negative to the copper. And it should start electrolyzing. Okay, so I've got the acid, I've purified and I've separated that into 2. There's still some tiny chunks of graphite, but that shouldn't do any bother. I pH tested it, and it is most definitely pH 1, as you can see by the indicator strip there, so I probably want to put gloves on before I start doing this next bit. But the next thing you're going to need, of course, it's a lead acid battery design this. So the other thing you need is some lead. So I have some pieces of lead. I've divided the acid into 2 cells because I found that 2 cells was the correct amount of power I wanted to power an LED in a subsequent one. So I'm just going to get some pieces of lead that I've hammered out, just very simple hooked over bits that I just hammered flat. I'm going to hook that over there to join the 2 cells together. And I'm going to put this on one side, this on the other side. Make sure of course that they don't touch in the middle of the battery, otherwise it'll short circuit and nothing will work. Then get the positive electrode, attach it to one side of the battery. Try not to knock everything over. Get the negative electrode and attach it to the other side of the battery. And after making sure that nothing is touching, turn on my power supply. Sort of maybe 10 volts 1 amp I think will be adequate for charging it, and turn the supply on. I'm going to turn it on to constant current mode. If you look closely at this one, you should see bubbles appearing. That's some water being split into hydrogen and oxygen at that terminal. So it's got some interesting byproducts, this battery. Of course you want to keep it in a well ventilated space, and probably don't want to keep it too enclosed so that it doesn't build up large amounts of explosive hydroxy gas. But you generally want to just leave it like this for a little while whilst the battery charges. Okay, so when I said there was explosive gas given off, I wasn't kidding. So one thing you do have to be careful with these is that it will explode. Sometimes quite violently. Okay, it's been charging for a short while now. So I'm just going to get my ammeter, put the light on so that you can see. And just check what sort of voltage I'm producing. Oh, that's gone off. So if I connect them up, you can see it's doing about 2.5 volts here. And if I put it to amps, see it's doing about sort of 40 milliamps. Fluctuates quite a lot between sort of 50 and 15. But as a better proof, I have here an LED. Going to connect it up. Okay, so if I take the resistor out, the LED works a lot better. Just connect it up. So yeah, it's a fairly simple battery, sort of 3 volts, but then again it's 2 cells. The normal sort of 12 volt 9 ones have sort of between 6 or more cells. So yeah, I'd say that works quite well. One thing you do have to be careful of is, of course, this will produce lead sulfate. Lead sulfate is highly toxic. Don't get it on your hands. If you are going to be transferring it, you want to be using gloves. Since I'm not putting my hands into the area with the liquid and don't plan on knocking it over, I'm fairly fine just to bam, put it over the top. It's not hugely lethal. But it's probably best to avoid getting this or the acid on your hands. So that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed. I will hopefully see you next Monday. I've been fairly busy over the last few weeks, so I haven't been able to upload, but I am going to try and get quite a lot done this week.